All right, let's go ahead and get this kicked off. So, hi everyone. Welcome to our New and Now series featuring HubSpot product updates for our Inbound 2023 edition. My name is Alexis Eaglin, and I'm a HubSpot certified trainer here at the Simple Strat team. In our New and Now series, we are covering all of the new updates recently released from HubSpot that we are most excited about, and then giving you real-life examples of how you can implement this in your portal to get some good results, pretty much right away. So this month is our special edition recap for the HubSpot's annual Inbound conference that was hosted last week. So we have a ton to cover, lots of new features that we'll be talking about during this next hour. So we do have a slight change to our agenda this time around. So last week when they were announcing some of the things, we noticed it was features we've already covered in our past webinars. So we are going to quickly recap over a couple of those pieces, just in case this is your first time tuning in. But then we'll jump into our regularly scheduled events of going through those top new features and use cases, and then going down into some of the smaller updates that you may have missed, but they're still worth mentioning and worth noting in our session today. And then, of course, we'll always end off with our Q&A segment, so be sure to send in those questions down below as you think of them. If you aren't familiar with Simple Strat, we are a diamond level solutions partner that helps you get more out of HubSpot. So we offer free support through HubSpot purchasing assistance. So whether you're a brand new HubSpot customer or you're looking to upgrade, we're happy to kind of talk through some of the options with you. A lot of the features that we'll be covering today are likely going to require, pro or enterprise levels, or maybe hubs that you don't already have. So if you need help kind of evaluating if an upgrade is right for you and kind of making sure you get the best possible pricing, please be sure to reach out to us so we can help you with that. And then we also help our clients with things like auditing and fixing their HubSpot portals, implementing any new features like things that we'll be covering today. And then, of course, just ongoing education with things like our webinars, as well as the content that we post on our HubSpot Hacks YouTube channel. So to get things going, I'm going to hand it over to my fearless leader, Tyler Swimani-Sprunk, who I finally had the pleasure of meeting in person last week, so he can talk you through all of those exciting updates.
Yeah, thanks, Alexis. So if you were at Inbound, you know that there were a ton of announcements, lots of product updates. And if you weren't at Inbound, you might have seen some of those come across your LinkedIn feed. Lots of HubSpot talk last week. So since Inbound, I've had the pleasure of being like, okay, we talked about all of these features. What are features that are actually new? What are things that maybe came out a few months ago they're just kind of talking about now? And what are those features that they hyped up, but they're not quite ready yet? Because I don't know about you, when I come back from a conference like that, I'm always like, okay, what can I do like today that actually is going to work and actually going to help me do my work in HubSpot? And kind of filtering through, what's hype and what's real and how do I use this can be a little bit of a challenge. And so I did all that work the last couple of days, been busy, so that you don't have to. So today we're going to walk through some of those use cases, but we're going to start by covering some of the things that if you've been coming to these webinars every month, you may have already seen. If not, if you're here for the first time, welcome. Thanks for coming. These may be new for you. So the first one is if you've been using HubSpot or looking at anything in HubSpot, you've probably seen lots of announcements and lots of new features around AI. They have been dribbling AI out throughout the platform. So we talked about this a little bit in a previous webinar. There's AI in the conversations inbox and blog writing, social writing, pretty much anywhere in HubSpot. If it's not already there, it's going to be there. Anywhere you can write, there's going to be content assistants that are AI-powered tools to help you do that. So you can do things like help you, write blog drafts, subject lines, social posts from blogs. There's all kinds of cool things that they're rolling out there. So AI was a big topic of Inbound, if as you might imagine. And I think, AI everywhere is really HubSpot's goal. Anywhere that you go in HubSpot, AI is just going to feel like a natural part of the tool. So here's a couple of the things that they talked about at Inbound that are coming that aren't out quite yet. So one is AI assisted live chat. This is one that I'm really excited about because it's not going to take a lot for you to implement it. But basically, you're going to be able to add a live chat on your website. And people are going to be able to ask questions, and that AI tool is going to look at the content across your web pages and across your knowledge base and answer those questions. If it doesn't think it has a good answer, then it's going to direct it to an actual person on your team. So really excited to see that. I think that we're going to see it here in the next couple of weeks. I don't anticipate having to wait too long for it. What I would do right now, if you haven't already done this and you're excited about this feature, is make sure that you have your website pages fleshed out and your knowledge base fleshed out. So if you've been thinking about having a knowledge base and haven't implemented one yet, now is kind of the time to do it, because not only do you have this new feature, but everybody has this new feature. So customer expectations for what they're going to be able to do on a website, we're probably going to see that start to shift as well. There's going to be an AI report generator. I'm optimistically excited. I'm a little bit leery about whether or not it's going to work right off the gate. But basically, the way that what they're saying it's going to do is you're going to be able to type in a question or type in, show me a report that has this data over this amount of time, and it's just going to build the report for you, which would be awesome. So I'm excited to see that and see how well that works. AI website assistant. So if you are creating a new website, and I'm going to preface this is probably ideal for really small businesses, 1 to 2 page websites, but you're going to be able to type in some information into this AI prompt about your company and what you do and things like that, what you want your website to look like. And it's actually going to build a simple website for you. So small companies, not going to be able to do this for like an enterprise or a 20-page website just yet. But if you're just, solopreneur kind of thing, I'm excited about what this is going to make possible for you. And then the AI campaign assistant, this is the one feature that is actually available in public beta. You're not going to be able to find it in your HubSpot portal yet, but you can find it at hubspot.com/campaign assistant. Similar to that website assistant, you type in some information about what you want to promote. It's going to create a landing page for you with some copy, and then you can use that copy to further create ad copy and social copy, and they're kind of expanding the different types of copy you can create. So lots of AI stuff coming to HubSpot, and we're excited to see what that makes possible. Now, with AI, there's lots of ways to use it, lots of things you can do. Not all of them are things that you probably should do. And so we do have a webinar coming up next week that Ali is going to be leading, that's going to be talking about like specifically what does AI make possible today that you really should be looking at that you could use today. So she's going to go through 33 ideas for sales and marketing for using AI. Highly recommend that you attend that if you're just kind of dabbling with AI or want to start doing that. You can sign up for that at simplestrat.com/webinars. Prospecting Workspace. So this is one that we covered a couple months ago. This is a new tool for salespeople, kind of a new homepage for salespeople to be able to do their interactions in HubSpot. And if you're at that webinar, you may remember that I got a question from Tillman. I don't know if he's on the call. What is that leads tab? And at the time I was like, I don't know. It's not actually live yet. It was just in a screenshot that HubSpot gave us. We're going to talk about what that leads tab is today. That is a feature that rolled out for inbound. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. Sequence reporting improvements. So you can now report by every step in a sequence, not just the email steps. And they added some analytics for those steps as well. So you can see things like, okay, this step was a task to call somebody. How frequently do we book a meeting after that call rather than just how frequently do we book meetings after emails? So that was a cool reporting improvement for sales sequences that was talked about at Inbound, but announced a couple months ago. And then the SMS marketing tool. This one is huge. If you weren't at our last webinar, we talked about it a bit, about it being early days. I think it was still in beta at the time. But this is a tool that allows you to kind of bulk SMS message. So it's not kind of like one-to-one where I can send a message and get a reply. I can't do that in HubSpot yet, but I can do things like send a mass text message to a list. So somewhat like a newsletter kind of thing. It does require Marketing Hub and Pro and Enterprise on the Pro or Enterprise level, and it does require an add-on that's $75 a month. But when we talked about this last time, the capabilities were still pretty limited. There's some new capabilities that I'm going to talk about here in a second. And I did forget to mention, if you're new to this webinar, these webinars that we do, there's a couple things I want to point out about kind of the slides. So what you'll see on every slide as we go through these is you'll see in the top left, you'll see what the feature is. And below that, you'll kind of see who it's available to or how it's available. So it'll either be live or public beta. And then we'll talk about the hubs that it's available on, and then the tiers on those hubs. So you should be able to know right away whether or not you've got access to this or whether or not it would require an upgrade for you. So I know that was super quick. There was a lot of announcements inbound, so I am going to be moving quick. If you have any questions, just drop those in the Q&A. Happy to chat about those. And if we can't get all the questions, happy to respond via email or set up a call to chat about them further. All right. So the real exciting stuff, the things that are actually new and how to use them. Some of the things that I'm going to talk about, honestly, didn't even get a whole lot of attention on the inbound stage, but I think they're really, really exciting in terms of what they can make possible for your company today. So let's walk through these. The first one is that SMS automation. So last time I talked about this, you could just say, here's a list. I want to send a message to everybody on this list. You couldn't put it in workflows. Now you can. It's still in beta, but you can enroll in that beta and do that. Same requirements as the text messaging add-on. So it does require a Marketing Hub on the Pro or Enterprise level, and it does require that $75 add-on, $75 a month add-on. It allows you to automatically send those messages. It also allows you to automatically manage consent. So HubSpot is building a lot of consent controls into this, just making sure that people aren't getting text messages that don't want text messages. It is still US only. So if you're outside of the US, unfortunately, this isn't available to you right now, but I do anticipate an international rollout. Often they do that in phases. I anticipate that in the coming months. There have been no announcements about that yet. And then the contacts do have to be marketing contacts. So just like sending emails to a contact, you want to make sure that when you're sending SMS, that they are marked as a marketing contact in your system. So basically any workflow that you're going to do that's going to send a message, I recommend making sure you've got a step in that workflow that marks them as a marketing contact, just in case they missed a form or something like that would do that otherwise. So how do we use this? There's all kinds of use cases for automated SMS. So I'm going to list out a few. Hopefully this kind of piques your imagination, or maybe some of these you could apply today. So you can confirm an online order. So somebody buys on your website or transacts via quote or invoice in HubSpot. We're talking about invoices here in a second. You could automatically send them a text message that confirm that you got their payment, and you could use personalization tokens to even put in some information about that order. You can send them a welcome message after they sign up. So if they sign up for your email newsletter or your text messages, you could confirm that essentially via a text message to kind of have that omni-channel communication, just to make sure that they know that you're listening, and that get them excited about the content they're going to receive. Abandoned cart follow-up. So if you're e-commerce and they've got a cart and they leave, you're no longer limited to just email abandoned carts. You can now use text messages for that as well to get them to come back and complete that purchase. And you do the same thing with abandoned forms. So I think last webinar, the webinar before, I walked through some examples with how you could use the new event-based workflow triggers to send automated messages, automated emails at that time to people who started to fill out a form or maybe visited a page that had a form on it, but didn't actually complete that form. Now you can do that with SMS too. You can send an onboarding message after a closed won deal. So, thanks so much for purchasing. Really excited to kick off your onboarding. Here's next steps. You can request customer feedback after a customer service interaction. So you close a ticket, text fires out right away. That text has a link to a HubSpot customer feedback survey. You could get that NPS score or any other information that you wanted for feedback from that customer. And then you could also do personalized marketing offers based on pages visited. So, hey, I noticed you visited this page. I thought you might be interested in this ebook or this case study, for example. So lots of things you can do with SMS. Really just think about, what are you doing for email today, and would it make sense to do an SMS? And what would you be doing for email today if it maybe it just doesn't make sense for the email channel, but it does make sense for the SMS channel. So really excited to see how we can use this for our clients and how people start to use HubSpot for this. All right, that leads tab in the prospecting workspace. What is that all about? So quite honestly, there's two things that I'm gonna talk about today that I think are just huge changes for HubSpot. I mean, AI is one of them, but I think there's two that honestly are even more fundamental than AI. One of them is this, and that's because pretty much everybody using HubSpot as their CRM, and even some of the people that are using a third-party CRM, the way you track your leads through the system, the way you manage those leads, it's all about trying to get them to buy something, right? Or buy something again. And how you use those is core to the CRM. And this is a big change to that core functionality. And so it is in public beta today. It's only available on Sales Hub, and you have to have a pro or enterprise level of that. We do have a HubSpot Hack video. So anytime you see the HubSpot Hacks logo, it means we've got a video on our HubSpot Hacks YouTube channel. You can just go to YouTube, search HubSpot Hacks, or honestly, if you just search for the tool, HubSpot Hacks is probably going to be one of the first videos that comes up. And it'll give you a much more detailed walkthrough of how this works than what I have time to do today. I could probably do a whole webinar on just this tool, but essentially what it is it's basically a new object. So what you can do is for a contact or company, you can say, you can do this manually, you can automate it based on lifecycle stage. You can say, I want this to be marked as a lead, and it's going to give you some additional functionality. So it's going to add that contact or company to the leads tab on that prospecting workspace. It's going to look a little bit like this. It's going to give you some visualization for how they're advancing through their stages, which are kind of taking the place of lead status. You can still use lead status if you want to. This is a much more just a much more visual and intuitive way of managing that. And the best thing about this is it gives you automation kind of built in. So we've, for a long time, been building custom workflows to advance people from one lead stage to the next as they take action. HubSpot now just has that out of the box. So what I mean by that is, let's say you've got a lead that is ready for a salesperson to follow up with them. They come in as new, or they get converted to an SQL sales qualified lead lifecycle stage. We convert them to a lead and we mark them as new. Then let's say you email them and you track that email in HubSpot, it automatically bumps them up to the next stage of attempting to connect. So they reply to that email, automatically bumps them up to the next stage of connected. You mark them as qualified. You can set it up in HubSpot, so it automatically requires that salesperson to then create a deal right then and there. So a lot of automation already in the out of the box with HubSpot, and just a much simpler way for people to manage their leads. The other great thing about this for salespeople is they get all of their leads in this like very streamlined list in that prospecting workspace, and they can take action directly from that view. So you can see here, the list is on the left. If they click on Alex, they'll see this thing pop up on the right. So they don't have to wait for a page load. It just pops up. And you've got these same actions across the top right there that you would on a contact record. So you can send an email, make a call, log a task directly from that view. So it allows you to work through your leads very, very quickly. Kind of similar to a task queue if you're familiar with those, but you don't have to wait for the page to keep reloading. So it's even faster. So a couple of use cases. One of the use cases that I would recommend right now, we see this all the time, is that people create deal stages very early in the sales process. So we see deal stages for things like prospecting or qualifying, things that happen maybe even before you've talked to a customer. And the problem with that is it can cause issues with data quality, efficiency, and adoption, because you're requiring your sales team to create these deals for people that maybe aren't very likely to convert yet. We haven't even had a conversation with them, right? So you've got to create a deal, they've got to close out that deal. If they never get in touch with them, how long do they leave that deal open? So it just creates a lot of issues. But a lot of times people still do it because that deal view gives them a really easy list. It gives them that visualization, but now we can get those things with the leads tool. So I would recommend, if you've got stages in your deal pipelines that are very early in the process, before a prospect has really suggested that, hey, I'm ready to talk about a sale, I'm likely to convert, I'm ready to have meetings, then I would recommend removing those stages and using the leads tool to replace those. And then it's going to give you the out of the box animation or automation, clear visualization, and it's really made to handle that scale. So oftentimes in those very early stages, you're going to have a lot more leads to manage than you would in other stages of your sales process. And the deals tool is great, but it's not really meant to handle huge volumes. If you look at that view, you can only see a couple cards before you have to scroll, for instance. And you got to click into it before you can take any action. The leads view is really meant to handle scale, and so it's going to just work a lot better for you than using deal stages early on. Obviously, this is going to cause some changes in your team if you do take advantage of this tool, and I do recommend that you do. So I would look today at how it's going to affect your handoffs from your marketing team to your sales team, and how do you need to train your sales reps to use this tool effectively. So modify your handoffs. You really need to ensure that that leads get created when needed, so that if a contact needs to be a lead, that gets created. That can be automated based on lifecycle stage, but it does require you to use HubSpot lifecycle stages. So if you're not using lifecycle stages today, if you're just not using it, if you built your own property, highly, highly suggest that you use HubSpot lifecycle stages. It's going to make this automation a lot easier. There's also some new reports I'm going to talk about later on that uses lifecycle stages too. So if you're not using lifecycle stages, please use them, make them a part of that flow that you have. And then train SDRs, BDRs, sales reps, whatever you call them, however your team is set up, to work from this new prospecting workspace. So it's going to be a new tool for them. They're going to like it, but it is going to be a change. So make sure they know how to use it and also how it's going to help them work more efficiently. And you can use our HubSpot Hacks video for that as well. And then define your standard operating procedures and definitions. So for example, if you've got a stage of qualified, make sure your team understands what does qualified mean. What criteria does a lead need to meet before we mark them as qualified, just to keep everything clean and consistent across your team. So if you've been to my webinars or watched any of my HubSpot Hacks content before, you know that I'm high on education and low on sales. I don't do a whole lot of sales pitches, but this is really, really important. When we have people come to us and say, hey, my HubSpot's a mess. I don't really know where everybody's at. I've got data cleanliness issues. I've got adoption issues. Almost always part of that is how they are tracking how leads and customers progress through their funnel or through their sales, their marketing and sales processes. So we do have something that helps you kind of tackle that. And if you feel like that's a little bit messy right now, if you feel like your deal pipelines are a mess, if you feel like you got problems with adoption, like you don't have clear reporting around where people are at in your funnel and what you need to do to move them to the next stage, then with the rollout of this tool and rolling this tool out to your team is a great time to kind of revisit that. So we've got a buyer's journey workshop. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but basically we take your processes, HubSpot's best practices and recommendations, and figure out where that overlap is and make sure you've got a tailored portal that helps you do that. So if you've got more questions about that, simplestrat.com/consult. We've got free consultations that you can schedule, free 30 minutes right there. Happy to talk more about that with you. All right. A/B testing sequence steps. So for people that are using sequences, this is huge because to optimize them in the past, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people weren't even optimizing. They were just creating a sequence. Did it work? Did it not work? Okay, we'll create a new sequence. And then people that were optimizing, they might create sequence A and sequence B, and then enroll 50 people into sequence A, enroll 50 people into sequence B, kind of manually compare them and see what works, and then optimize from there. So now we've got A/B testing built into sequences on each step. So this is in public beta. It's available for service and sales hubs as long as you don't have a sales legacy seat. So if you've been on sales for a long time, make sure you don't have a legacy seat. But all the regular sales and service hubs are available on Pro or Enterprise. You can make up to 5 different versions of emails for every email step in a sequence. And then you can have 2 on at a time. So you can kind of predict or preemptively write the next variations and have those just queued up there. HubSpot does recommend waiting until each step has gotten sent at least 100 times prior to kind of making any decisions. But as you can see, you'll see the reporting directly in the sequence in terms of, how did version A perform? How did version B perform? And then you can turn off and turn on versions based on that. So how to use it? We recommend that you start optimizing. If you're using sequences, there's no better time than the present to start optimizing those. So how to do that, where to do that? What I would do is I would work to identify sequence steps that are underperforming in your frequently used sequences. So if you've got a sequence that's only going to be sent to 10 people, probably not worth it. But if you've got a sequence that's used by your team all the time, I would take a look at that and look at all of the steps, the email steps in that sequence, and find the one that looks like it's kind of an outlier. It's not performing as well as the others. Start your optimization there. Create a variation for that step, or you can create multiple variations. Just remember, you can only have 2 on at a time. And then with those variations, make sure that you're testing one variable at a time. If you've got, honestly, the example in that screenshot that I grabbed from HubSpot on the last screen wasn't a great example because it's a completely different email. It doesn't really tell me that much in terms of being able to optimize other sequences or other steps going forward. So test one thing at a time, test the subject line or test the call to action. Don't have just completely different emails because it's just not going to give you as detailed of information. And then wait till enough volume has been sent. So like I said, recommend 100 per variation, turn off the weaker version, and then test a new variation with a different change. And then apply what you learned. So after you've done this a couple times, you're going to start figuring out, okay, these types of subject lines work better. These types of CTAs work better. And so for other sequences or for future sequences as you're creating, make sure you document those lessons and always be testing, but you can start to use those to make it so that your kind of starting place is better than the starting place was before. Lead form routing. So unfortunately, this is enterprise only, but if you have enterprise, this is something that I've been waiting for forever. I know a lot of my clients have been waiting for forever. What this allows you to do is it allows you to send a website visitor to a different meeting scheduling link depending on how they filled out a form. So some of the use cases here will make it a little bit clearer what I mean. So you could do this to make sure that only qualified people can book a meeting, for example. So you could do things like include a qualifying question or questions on a form. So let's say you only want to talk to people of a certain company size or of a certain industry, of a certain location. So you could ask a question in the form. And then if let's say I only want to work with companies in the US, I ask their location. That's actually the example shown on the screen here. And if they mark US, I want them to be able to book a meeting. And if not, I don't want them to be able to book a meeting. So we can route those qualified prospects to a meeting link. So we can say, if their country is United States, send them to this meeting link. If it's not, display a thank you message. So we've got an example thank you message here where, hey, our team will follow up soon. Because maybe maybe they're still a good prospect. Maybe they're, in Southern Canada and I would still want to work with them. It still gives you the opportunity to do that. They just couldn't book a meeting right then and there. The other way to do this is maybe you've got multiple sales teams or multiple sales reps that handle different types of customers, and you want to make sure that people can book with the right team. So include routing questions, same examples, company size, industry, location, but it can be anything that breaks up your sales teams. Ask those on the form and then route them accordingly. So in this example, we've got a team for Canada and a team for United States. If they say their country is United States, we're sending them to one meeting link. If they say Canada, we're sending them to a different link. So pretty simple, very straightforward. This does send them only to meeting links. So unfortunately, it doesn't allow you to say, show them this confirmation page or send them to this web page if they have this. I would guess that that's coming because they clearly already have the technology to do that, but they haven't announced that yet. I can guarantee you I will be asking them for this, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. So hopefully in the future, you'll be able to send them to different pages. But as of today, it is only different meeting links or just displaying that thank you message. Advanced playbook recommendations. So this is available on Pro or Enterprise. Quite frankly, I was surprised to see this on the Pro level. If you're not familiar with playbooks, these are the tools in HubSpot that allows you to kind of pop up a form inside of your CRM for your sales or service reps to use. So this isn't public-facing forms. This is for forms that you're using in your CRM. So let's say I'm going to make a sales call, and as a sales manager, I want that rep to be asking these 3 questions every time. The playbook will have those questions, allow the sales rep to enter the answers to those questions, and then that will log as a note, or for our enterprise, we can map that to properties. So that's been available for quite a while. But where we're at now is the teams that are using these playbooks, oftentimes a sales rep or a customer service rep, when they want to use a playbook, they've got to search for a playbook or scroll through a long list of playbooks to try to find the right one. And so what this is allowing you to do is this allowing you to set up recommendations saying, if an object meets these filters, then let's recommend this playbook. So some examples for this, let's say you've got, we talked about that leads tool, right? So let's say they have a lead status of new or a lead stage of new. So we want to show the sales rep, recommend the sales rep that they use this discovery playbook. So the next time they're on the phone with this prospect, they're going through our discovery questions. Or let's say we've got a deal stage that's called demo scheduled. So the next time that sales rep talks to the contacts involved in that deal, good chance they're doing a demo. So we could have a playbook that walks them through that demo, recommends that playbook whenever a deal is in that stage. An onboarding playbook. So contact has a recent closed one deal. Good chance our next conversation is about onboarding. We could recommend that. We can have different playbooks for different ICPs. So maybe we've got, company size, employee size is less than 1,000. We want to show them, show a playbook for, these are the messages you should be talking about in that meeting. If they're more than 1,000, we should show them that. Maybe we've got different recommended solutions. We've got different playbooks for how we talk about those solutions. Different follow-up playbooks. So we can look at that recent conversion property and say, okay, if the recent conversion is this, show them this playbook. So if they downloaded an ebook about this, let's talk about the things we talked about in the ebook. Let's talk about our solutions that are related to that when we get on the phone with them. Or an intake playbook for inbound customer service calls. So I'm getting a call from a contact to my customer service line. I have no open tickets. Good chance they've got a new issue. So I can have a playbook that walks us through our customer service intake to create that ticket, and begin diagnosing that issue. So lots of different ways to use this. These are just a few examples. Forecast across all of your pipelines. So you've kind of been able to do this with forecast categories, but what was frustrating is when you created revenue goals in the past, you had to pick a pipeline. And if that works for some sales teams, but for a lot of sales teams, especially smaller sales teams where your reps are working across pipelines, this didn't work very well. So now you can set goals and do forecasting across your pipelines pretty easily. You do still have to use the forecast category tab in forecasting to do that, but you no longer have to create pipeline-specific revenue goals. And when a rep is submitting a forecast, if you have your rep submitting forecasts, so saying like, hey, I'm a rep and I think I'm going to get 20K this month, they don't have to do that by pipeline either. They can submit revenue forecasts across those pipelines. So what I would recommend doing is updating and adding goals. So if pipeline-specific forecasting made your goals more complex or prevented you from using this, I know people that, honestly, I was reluctant to use this because pipeline-specific goals didn't really make sense for how we do business. And it got confusing when I went and set a revenue goal and had to pick a pipeline. I was like, no, I just want this rep to close this much revenue. I don't really care what pipeline it comes from. So if that was the case for you, then I would recommend revisiting that and make sure you've got category forecasting set up if you don't already. We've got a HubSpot hack on forecasting and how to set that up, so you can check that out on our YouTube channel. And then add or update those revenue goals that apply to all pipelines so you can start taking advantage of this. Another forecasting one, this one I think is going to be awesome for anybody that's using that submit forecast. So the submit forecast, again, is where a rep can say, hey, I think I'm going to close X amount of revenue this month, this quarter, whatever. So what this allows you to do is now you can actually go back and look at the submissions that a rep has made and see how accurate that was compared to the amount of revenue they closed, which is awesome because before it was just like, yeah, okay, I think their submissions are coming in high a lot, but I don't really have any reporting. Like, this is just kind of a feeling that I have, or maybe you've got too many reps to even manage that. So what I would recommend doing is you can actually, with the tool rollout, they're actually looking back historically. So you can already today go back and look at your history. As long as you had reps submitting forecasts, you can now go back and see how accurate that was. So if they're using it, go back and review that historical accuracy, work to identify reps with consistently poor accuracy. So people that are under-reporting or over-reporting consistently month in and month out, and then coach or train them as necessary. And if you're not using forecast submissions where you're asking your reps to submit forecasts, I encourage you to do so. Not only do you have this new functionality to measure their accuracy, but it's also a great way to motivate reps. So, if I know that at the beginning of the month, I submitted a goal to my manager of 20K and I'm sitting at week 3 at 15, I'm really motivated to go out and get that extra 5. And it's also a way to kind of hold them accountable, right? So if I get to the end of the month and I'm only at 10, we can have a conversation about, okay, why didn't we get the extra 10 or why did you think you were going to get 20? And we can talk through why that didn't necessarily pan out so that the forecasting can get more accurate and sales performance can improve over time. Okay, I mentioned that there were 2 things that I thought were going to totally change the possibilities of HubSpot. One of them is that leads tool and how that changes how you work your leads through HubSpot. The other one is this ability to customize the CRM. HubSpot is in the pursuit of making their tool a better tool for larger enterprises. Even if you're not a larger enterprise, we're going to get some of that effect trickle down and help us out. So the big one here for people who are non-developers, I'll talk about a development related one here at the end if you've had developers or want to call us to have us help you. But there's a couple things you can do without a developer today that you couldn't do in the past. So in public beta, it's available on all hubs and tiers with an asterisk. So we're going to talk about team views later on. You have to have pro or enterprise to do that. And we're also going to talk about adding tabs later on. You have to have enterprise to do that. But basically what we can do is on a contact record, any object, contact, company, deal, ticket, custom object, used to just have that activity timeline in the middle. Then we saw this overview tab come up. Now we have the ability to further customize that overview tab, add new types of cards. And if you're an enterprise, we can add new tabs as well. So walk through some of the use cases for this. One of the new card types that you can add is called a stage tracker. So any object type that has a pipeline, so that can be deals or tickets out of the box, or if you're using enterprise and you have a custom object that has a pipeline, so maybe like shipping, for example, shipped, delivered, en route, whatever. We now have a card that we can create without a developer that will show us how that's progressing. So on the screen, I've got an example for a deal. So we see, they've went through 3 stages. They're on the 4th stage. We can see the stage they're in. And then we got some information relevant to that deal. So we can see the amount, the next step, the forecast category, et cetera. So you can start to see how some of these tools are working together. So this is a great way to visualize and to give a rep a lot of insight into where a deal or ticket is at in the process from inside the deal or ticket record. We can also do things like add reports. So this is an example of showing company revenue over time. So let's say you've got a product or a service that you sell to companies often, or maybe it's a retainer and you're tracking your monthly revenue and you're trying to get that to increase over time. We can add single object reports to these tabs now. So in this example, we created a new single object report that shows revenue by month for closed won deals. So all closed won deals, show us the revenue, show it by month. We add this report to a report card, a report type card on this new tab editing functionality. And what's great is it will automatically filter. So I just go to that report in the reports library, it's going to show me all closed revenue for all closed won deals. As soon as I add it to a card on a company record, it's automatically going to filter to just show me closed won revenue for deals that are associated with that company. So automatically handles the filtering for you. You can also do this for things like sales activities, service ticket history, all kinds of things. Anything that you can report on in the single object reporting tool, you can now add right inside of your record. We can also service relevant information by role. So maybe your sales team needs to see different things inside of a record than your service team. So if you've got professional or enterprise, the best way to do this is to set up team views. So we can say, this is what we want that overview tab to look like if the user is on a team that we call sales, for example. And this is what we want it to look like if they're on a team called service. And so we can set up these team views. This is kind of what it looks like. And maybe for the sales team, we want to show them the associated deal info, and the service team, we want to show them associated tickets. We can also show them different properties, different reports, all kinds of things. If you're on enterprise, probably the best way to do it, you can still use the Teams view if that makes sense for you. Probably the best way to do it is role-specific tabs. So enterprise gives you the ability to show different tabs. So we can have a sales tab that only shows sales information. And we can have a service tab that only shows service information. And if you've got a custom use case, you can do that as well. So on the sales tab, we might be showing things like deals and for surfacing relevant sales activities and interesting properties for sales to know, like what's on the screenshot here. We can do the same thing for service, for tickets and service-related interactions and properties that are interesting to them. And you can also make HubSpot do and show whatever you want, as long as you have access to a developer. So the big update here is that there's a new capability for developers to create custom cards. That's been out for a little while. What's new is it uses React. If you're not a developer, that means nothing to you. But basically, it's a library that makes it easier for developers to create better looking interfaces with visualizations that convey more information. So I know that was a lot, but 2 examples on the screen here. So you can see this little like trip details and bus options. It like shows you kind of how you're walking through this process. This other one down here kind of shows like a menu and it's got buttons on it. That's all React in action. So it's a public beta. It is only available for enterprise and it is going to require a developer. But a couple things that you can do. So you can show data from other systems. So this GIF that's on the screen here is an example where it's surfacing restaurants that are near a company record. You can search those restaurants and you can actually order directly from those restaurants. So this example was one that they talk about in their support docs. This example is like, let's say you've got a partner that's referred a new sale to you and you want to buy a meal for their team. So you can do that directly inside of your HubSpot if that was part of your kind of partner success strategy. The other example at the top there is actually doing stuff within HubSpot. So let's say you've got an advanced quoting system or a need for an advanced quoting system. You could actually create that inside of HubSpot. So this example, we're asking how many passengers, what's the distance. You can hit next and it'll walk you through the process of creating that quote. So you can add new functionality available from within record pages. So like that quote creation I mentioned, and you can enhance integrations with other systems. So you can do things like, set up a button. So when I click this button, maybe it adds something to your ERP or any other kind of system, your project management system. Maybe you're looking at projects from your project management system inside of your HubSpot records. Really anything that you can imagine. It's software, right? So as long as you have access to a developer, pretty much anything you want HubSpot to do, you can now do it with these custom cards. So I think this is huge. I think we're going to see, we've seen Salesforce be extremely customized. HubSpot is working in that direction where it really just is a platform that enables anything you're doing across marketing, sales, and service. All right, that was a lot. Take a breath. So small but mighty updates. So these are the updates where the use cases, quick breath. The use cases are more obvious, but they're really important for you to know. So some of these are going to be things around, like there's a lot of hype around inbound. Like, what does that actually mean? HubSpot sunsetted a couple things that you might be surprised to go to your HubSpot and not see anymore. So that's what we're going to be talking about here. And we'll run through these quick and then get to that Q&A. I know we've got some questions piling up here. Commerce Hub. Okay, if you heard about Commerce Hub and all the inbound hype and announcements, it's not really new. Basically, what HubSpot did is they took all of the sales related, like payment processing related features that they've been dribbling out over the last 6 to 9 months, and they packaged them up into one hub. It's a little bit confusing because you don't have to buy this hub. You just get this hub. If you have any other hub, you get this hub. So if you have Marketing Hub, you get Commerce Hub. If you have Sales Hub, you get Commerce Hub. You get Commerce Hub if you're using HubSpot, and it is free. So what I mean by free is that you don't pay a monthly fee or an annual fee to use Commerce Hub. What you pay is you pay processing fees. So a lot of the tools inside of Commerce Hub make it easy for you to process payments. So invoices, I can put a checkout link. Quotes, I can put a checkout link. Payment links, a link that you can click and buy a product right there. Payment processing in HubSpot is awesome. There's a lot of use cases for it if you haven't dabbled with that yet. You can use HubSpot payments, which means that HubSpot is your payment processor. You set up your bank account and things like that, and HubSpot will process that payment. What we use for all of our quotes. You can also use Stripe. That integration is in beta. But the way that you pay for Commerce Hub is every transaction you pay a fee. So it's 1% for Stripe. For HubSpot payments, I don't know. So there's some documentation that says that it doesn't cost anything except for HubSpot's standard payment free. There's some documentation that says that there will be a 1% fee added to that in 2024. So TBD on that, but at least no additional fees until 2024 if you're using HubSpot, and 1% if you're using Stripe. So it's invoices, payment links, quotes, and subscriptions are included in here too. All those features they've been announcing. So no new features here except for that Stripe beta, just packaging it up and making it a little bit clearer for new customers to understand. Deal funnel report updates. So if you're using deals in HubSpot, one of the most frustrating things, at least for me, was HubSpot gave you this great report that showed you how deals were converting between stages. It was great until you had deals skip a stage, which honestly is awesome, right? If you're in a sales process and you have a first meeting with a customer and they're ready to buy today, it's awesome to get them to skip all those middle stages. But that means that you don't get a report on that awesomeness. So it didn't, like, that's a great conversion. It's probably a faster conversion, and that just dropped off of your conversion reporting. Now, skipped stages don't affect this new deal funnel report. In fact, it'll even show you how many deals skipped that stage. So awesome update. It is in public beta for anybody that had access to the old deal stage flow, which is Pro and Enterprise. They also announced a brand new report, which is lead funnel reporting. So very, very similar to deal stages, except you're not limited to deal stages. So this will show you conversion rates across stages. And you can set up the order of this and how many you want included, but it's going to be across your lifecycle stages, your lead status, and your deal stages. So this example here, we've got a lifecycle stage of lead. How many converted to the lifecycle stage of marketing qualified lead? How many converted to the lifecycle stage of sales qualified lead? How many of those had a lead status marked as new? So lead status we recommend is using as a way to drill into your sales qualified leads a bit further. How many went to attempting, connected, and then how many moved to the lifecycle stage of opportunity and customer. So in this example, you can see either we're really, really good at converting customers quickly, so they go straight from lead to opportunity, or the team needs to be better at updating those contacts and companies as they progress through the stages. So either way, we just have data, the insights on that a little bit more nuanced. But I think that we talked about that buyer's journey workshop, and then setting up like how that flow works is what we do there. This is the best way to report on that, and it's brand new in HubSpot. Sales velocity report. If you don't know what sales velocity is, it's a very, very specific number that is derived from a very, very specific equation. That's really big in sales management as a way to measure sales performance. It's really kind of a way to make sure that like a really, really big pipeline doesn't get conflated with high sales performance, right? So if I've got a huge pipeline but low sales velocity, I'm not actually in a good spot, despite my pipeline suggesting that I might be. So if sales velocity is a metric that's important to you, the great thing is that HubSpot is going to calculate that automatically for you, and they've got a new report on it. All three of these reports, by the way, live under reporting, analytics, and sales analytics. And this one is also in public beta, available for Sales Pro and Enterprise. Deal insights. So we have a HubSpot hack that walks through how to manage deals and all of the updates around that. One of those updates is deal insights. So it's this new kind of banner across the top that'll give you some summary data across all of the deals that are shown, however you have your view filtered. So awesome way to get some summaries there. The example here is shown in the deal list view. You can also see it in the deal board view. If you're using the Salesforce integration, I'm sorry, I really wish you'd be using HubSpot CRM, but I understand that's not possible for everybody. So HubSpot's made some updates to their the HubSpot embed, so how you embed HubSpot inside of Salesforce. And a couple of those updates are you can now schedule meetings and enroll contacts. So this is inside of Salesforce. I can say, for this Salesforce contact, I'm going to schedule a meeting, or for this Salesforce contact, I'm going to enroll them in a HubSpot sequence. You can do that directly from inside of Salesforce in this embed. And then coming soon, this isn't really related to the embed, this is related to the integration. You'll now be able to, inside of your contact record, you'll be able to see any activities that were taken and tracked inside of Salesforce. So say you've got a call logged in Salesforce that didn't get logged in HubSpot. Now you'll be able to see that there was a call logged in Salesforce directly on that contact record inside of HubSpot, which is just an awesome way to tighten up that integration. So if you can, please move over to HubSpot's CRM and sales tools. I think if anything was obvious in inbound, it's that the sales CRM is way, way more advanced than it used to be. This idea that it only worked for companies that had 10 salespeople is antiquated. It definitely is much more advanced, and they're making that even more true all the time. But if you have to stay using Salesforce, then this is a great way to tighten up that integration. And then a couple workflow changes that I think you should be aware of. So if you are sending emails from workflows and those emails are not performing very well, HubSpot will cancel them. Don't freak out. It's not going to affect most people. So it only affects emails that are sent 2,000 times within 14 days that also don't hit the HubSpot's required thresholds for hard bounces, unsubscribes, and spam reports. So really the only time this is going to affect you is if you're doing like massive cold campaigns from inside of HubSpot workflows, which you shouldn't really be doing anyway. So HubSpot is kind of enforcing that with this tool. And then steps will no longer show the number of records in workflow actions. So you used to be able to like walk into a workflow and there'd be like a delay of 5 days, and there'd be a number right next to that said, okay, you've got 20 contacts in that delay. Can't see that anymore. I love HubSpot's reasoning for that. It basically was like, that never really worked very well. So we just stopped doing it. So what you can do now is you can click on the step and it'll show you a list of the contacts or deals, whatever object that workflow is for. It'll show you a list of all of those there. So you can still get that. You just won't get that nice little number that apparently was never very accurate in the first place. Last one, subscriptions with no upfront payments. This is like an update that like in terms of like how like being able to use it like right away, like I'm super excited about, because we use subscriptions for our company. It used to be, let's say a contact said, I'm ready to go, I want to buy, but it's the 15th and I don't want my subscription to start until the 1st. You could not, you either had to wait until the 1st to send them a link to check out, or you had to like charge them $1 or like a startup fee. You had to collect payment on that initial transaction before they could enter their payment info. Now that's not true. We can say we want the subscription to start in the future. They can check out with a $0 purchase. They just enter their credit card information or their ACH information. And when you set that subscription up to start, it will bill on that date. So Very small update, but if you're using subscriptions and you were frustrated by this like I was, it is an important one. All right, next steps. We talked about a lot of things. What do you do now? You're probably a little overwhelmed. We'll send out this recording. We'll put it on YouTube. But what you can do, I recommend identifying 1 to 2 updates that your team could benefit from right away. So a lot of things, a lot of possibilities. Narrow that down to 1 to 2 that you know will make an impact for your business. You've got a couple options. We can help you get that set up. So simplestrat.com/consult. We can help you set up any features, talk through any features that we talked about today. Or if you'd rather do it yourself, you can research the updates, the update details. Most of them are on the HubSpot knowledge base, or you can go to where your company name is in the top right in your HubSpot portal, hit product updates, and all of them will be listed right there for you. Enroll in any necessary betas. So anything we said public beta, you do have to enroll, and you enroll in that same spot. Implement it and always measure the impact so you can report back on that success and iterate from there. And then please join us next time. We do this every month. We've got the AI one coming up next week, and then we do our HubSpot updates every month. So some of those features we talked about that will be coming soon. A lot of them will drop this month. We'll walk through use cases for them on the first Wednesday of October. So please join us. simplestrat.com/webinars is where you can always sign up for those. So I know we have about 10 minutes, just shy of 10 minutes. I know there's a few questions here, so I will let Alexis moderate and I will answer what I can. Just a lot of this is new, so there might be some things I can't answer. I'll answer everything I can.